Hi, my name is Amy Heyse, and this is My Cat Scully, and I'm going to be walking you through how to do an origami Sacred Heart of Jesus. We start with a simple origami heart, and then we use markers, glue, and scissors to finish it up. I thought this would be a fun project because I love origami and I love Jesus. This would be a great thing to do for a feast day, Valentine's Day, or just because. For this project, you need 2 pieces of paper, a square one for your heart and a scrap paper for your flame. You need a pencil and some things to color with. You also need some scissors and a glue stick. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of paper and we're going to fold it in half like a triangle. So you're going to take one point and fold it to the opposite point. So I'm holding the points nice and flat, and then I am creasing all the way flat. Then I want to open my paper up, turn it, and fold a triangle the opposite way. So I'm taking one side and folding it to the opposite point to create a triangle, and I'm creasing down flat. I'm going to open up my piece of paper, and I'm going to take this top point of my paper, and I'm going to fold it down to these crease lines dead center. Like so. I'm going to crease this flat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bottom point and I'm going to fold it to the top of this piece right here. And I'm going to crease the bottom edge flat. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these sides, the left side and the right side, and I'm going to fold it up like this. That way this edge lines up with the center edge of the paper. So I'm going to fold the paper up so it lines up with the crease, and then this little point matches the top part. And these are going to be the edges of our heart, and I'm going to crease those down flat like so. And I'm going to do the same thing on this opposite side where this edge is going to come up. It's going to line up with my other side of the heart, and this corner is going to match up with the top, and then I'm going to crease it flat. And now we start to see the heart shape. So this paper, if I were to let go, it's going to start to open up by itself. So what I want to do is I want to take my glue stick and I want to add some glue on my paper. That way these side edges aren't going to fold down. This is just going to help secure them in place a little bit more. So I'm just using my glue stick. And now I don't have to worry about it budging. Then what I want to do is I want to turn my paper to the back, and we want this heart to look just a little more rounded, not as pointy. So I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to fold it in just a little bit, crease that flat. I'm going to fold this corner in just a little bit. And this is just kind of rounding out the side edges. And then these top points, I want to fold those down just a little bit. So one will come down like this, that flattens out the top part of that heart. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one, trying to make them match at least a little bit. And if I flip it back to the front, I can see my heart now has more rounded bumps, and I can adjust those if I want. If you want to, you can glue these down as well, but it's up to you. I feel like these ones don't pop up as much as the front part of the heart. But if you want to, you're more than welcome to glue these edges down. And that ends the main heart for our Sacred Heart of Jesus origami. So once we get our heart folded, we want to create the flame that goes up at the top. So I'm going to grab my scrap piece of paper. I'm going to be using yellow, but you can use any color or colors that you want. And I want to create the flames. So what I usually do is I take my scrap piece of paper and I start out by just putting it behind my origami heart. So I'm going to walk you through how to do that, but you can make your flame look however you wish. So what I like to do is I like to put in a curved line, one on the left side and one on the right side, to create the side edges, these side edges of the flame. And then I like to do kind of like it's almost like a triangle, it's just a little bit more curved in the middle. So I'm going to, in between those two lines, draw a curved triangle in the middle, and that's going to create this flame, but I still have this empty space. So I just want to have these side edges come to a point and connect to my triangle shape in the middle. So once I have the points of my flame, I can start to cut this out. Now, I just want to make sure that I'm leaving some space of the scrap paper coming down. That way I have something to glue on. So if you want, you can kind of extend this all the way down. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my pair of scissors and I am going to cut out my paper flame. So I'm just cutting right on the lines of my pencil. So I have some areas where I still have some of my pencil lines showing. If I want, I can erase those, or I can just flip the paper over to the back side and there are no more pencil lines, and I can use this back side for my flame. So what I want to do is I need to glue this piece of paper to my heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue stick and I am going to add some glue to the bottom of my flame, like so. And I'm going to take my flame and stick it to the back side of my heart. That way, when I flip it, I have this nice flame peeking out from behind my origami heart. What I want to do next is I want to draw out some of the designs, like the crown of thorns, the drop of blood, this cross, and you can use any art supplies that you wish. I am going to be using a black marker. I have a black Sharpie marker, but you can do this with crayons, pencils, anything that you'd like. So on the flame, we're going to draw out our cross. So we just want one line that's coming straight up and down, lining up with this crease line right here. And then I'm going to do a shorter line going across like so. And that's a nice looking cross, or I can thicken it up by adding extra Sharpie lines around it. Then I want to start to work on my crown of thorns. I'm going to start on one side of my heart and I'm going to move my marker up and down, kind of like waves. So up and down, as many or few bumps as I can get across until I hit the other side. And then I want to do the opposite kind of wave motion. So they're kind of crisscrossing. So I'm going to go up and down, up and down, kind of doing the opposite of my first line. So I can leave it like that, or I can darken up some of the lines, make it a little bit thicker in spots. Once I've thickened out my lines, I can start to add the thorns. So the thorns are just going to be little points or like tiny triangles or V shapes. You can add them anywhere that you want on these main twisted lines of the crown of thorns. So you just pick a spot and you just start with a single line, but we want it a little bit more pointed at the top and we want it a little more thick, kind of like a long skinny triangle where it connects to the main part of the crown of thorns. And then I can just color that in black or whatever color marker I'm using. And you can add as many or as few of these as you wish. Some can be bigger, some can be smaller. You can have some that crisscross. Then last but not least, we're going to be adding in this little gash where this little drop of blood is coming. So I'm going to be putting it here on this left side. So I start off with a curve, kind of like a frown. And then I do a line coming down. It's rounded at the bottom, and then it kind of comes back up into a point. And if I want to, I can color that in, or you can just leave it the red of the paper. This one I did a little bit of colored pencil. I did it mostly red with a little bit of white to make it look a little more three-dimensional. So I have a red colored pencil. This would work with a marker or any other art supply as well. And because this red is just slightly different than the red of my paper, it looks a little bit darker. And I'm going to use a little bit of white on top. Just makes it look a little more three-dimensional. Thank you so much for following along with me today. I would love to see how your Sacred Hearts turned out. If you want me to do an Immaculate Heart of Mary or a Chaste Heart of Saint Joseph origami style, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed following along with today's tutorial, you can give this video a thumbs up and you can subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on other Catholic-inspired art tutorials. Another way you can support the channel is you can buy me a coffee. I want to remind you that you are loved. God loves you very much and He loves your artwork very much. Thank you so much for following along with me today, and I'll see you next time.